Hi everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts, and today's video is a part of the Miss Ink sneak week for her fall 2020 release, and I'm going to be showcasing this fall bouquet stamp set. It is a 4x6 set and it comes with this large beautiful floral image, and as you can see it pretty much takes up the entire space on an A2 card. This panel is cut to 4 by 5¼ inches. If you can see, there is some light yellow ink blending in the center. I decided to cut that out just because I don't end up liking the yellow ink blending, but I am stamping over it anyway because my copic markers will cover the stenciling completely. And I'm just going to fussy cut the image out and re-stencil it on a kraft piece of cardstock instead. And I will show you how I did that, but I just wasn't feeling the yellow and the white. I colored these florals in earthy fall colors, so I just felt like the kraft suited the colors a little bit better than the stark white, just because white is a cool color and I use nothing but warm colors for my copic coloring. So today's video is essentially all coloring, and it's been a while since I've used my copics, and I also have not colored in a floral image in a very long time. So when I received this stamp set, I was super happy that I could sit down and just color, because personally, sometimes I enter the craft room and my creative juices are not flowing, so I just sometimes want to color and not think about it. So that was this card, and I really enjoyed the process. I think the coloring took maybe an hour. It really wasn't too bad. I used 3 colors per image, and I am going to read off the marker caps. They are on screen, but if you want to see a list of them written out, you can head over to either the Miss Ink blog or my blog, wherever you're watching this video. If it's on my channel, you can check out my blog. If it's on the Miss Ink channel, I'm going to link to the Miss Ink blog. But both of them have the marker caps, and I'm also just going to say them. So for this pink flower, I used RV69, 64, and RV34. And you're going to notice that I am not sticking very close to the numbers. Usually I have 2 numbers that are pretty close together, and then my lightest color tends to be one that's way off. But I do try to pick colors that end in the same number. So I chose RV64 and RV34, and even though those numbers are quite far apart, because they both end in 4, they're naturally going to blend well together. And I learned this from a Sandy Alnook hex chart. And it's very helpful. So if you're looking for color combinations and you don't necessarily have the numbers that are close together, you'd be surprised how many combinations you can use that are like completely different. And so I'm going to link over to her hex chart if you want to check it out. Basically, any adjacent markers on that hex chart will go together, so there's a lot of different possibilities. And personally, I really like that better, because sometimes the number system, if you get numbers really close together, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the colors are so close that there's not enough contrast or not enough highlight for me. So I really do like that hex chart. So the numbers I'm using are completely off, but they do work well together. And sometimes I just pick my own colors, guys. I don't like think about it. I just look at the colors. I try to find a dark, medium, and light, and that most of the time also works for me. So for this orange flower, I used E99, YR09. See, I chose the 9s. And then for my lightest marker, I did YR04. And the 04 marker is much brighter than the E99 and YR09. So sometimes if you have very muted colors and you want to brighten it up, just go for a really bright light color. And if you want to darken some things, go for a really dark shadow color. And then for my yellow combination, I chose YR27, YR23, and Y18. So again, I have 2 that are pretty close in number, and then typically my lightest color is much brighter than the mid-tone in the darkest color. So I believe the first day of fall was either yesterday or the day before. For me personally, fall begins on September 1st. I don't know about you guys, but as soon as August ends, I am pulling out the fall decor, fall clothing, and obviously fall colors for card making. So I was really excited to color in this bouquet. I love the little maple leaves. They were a lot of fun to color. All right, so I'm gonna tell you my olive combination. I have G99 and G94. And I thought I only wanted 2 markers, but eventually I will pull G24 as my lightest color. And I'm coloring them in as olives, even though I'm 99% sure that they're not olives. They just look kind of like them. They might be some kind of berry, but I just saw them as olives. And olive is a great fall color, so I figured it doesn't really matter what I color them. I'm also going to color the stems this green combination, but for the maple leaves, I'm going to color 2 of them red and then the one in the middle brown. So here's where I decide that I do want to pull in that G24, although these little olives, berries, they're really small. You don't need a 3rd color, but like I said, I was kind of in the zone, really enjoying this process, so I just pulled in that 3rd marker. So like I said, the Miss Ink release is going to be available on Friday, and throughout this whole week, the design team is featuring one specific product from the release, and you can go ahead and head over to the Miss Ink Instagram account to enter into a bunch of giveaways. I think today's giveaway is going to be of this stamp set that I'm coloring, so if you want to win it, definitely go over to that, to the Miss Ink Instagram. So for my red leaves, I'm using R59, R56 as my midtone, and then as my brightest highlight color, I'm going to add R35. And you're gonna see once I add that how much it brightens the leaf while still keeping it, I guess, muted. And so I really liked how this red turned out. I'm going to do the same color combination to the leaf on the right. And I forgot to mention, but I say it all the time, but I always forget that I have new subscribers, but I do color from darkest to lightest. So I'm starting with the R59. I'm adding the shadows basically in the center of the leaf where any of the flowers are overlapping. That's going to naturally cast a shadow. And then I go over the darkest color with my R56, and I basically just cover or extend the color more towards the edges, but I still leave a little bit of white space for my highlight color. And a lot of people like to go from lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. But personally, this is my favorite way to color. It's also very quick. So everyone colors differently. Not everyone does lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest either. There's just a lot of different ways I've seen people color with copics. Either way, you don't even really have to try with copics to achieve a pretty look because it ends up looking gorgeous no matter how you work with the markers. They're by far my favorite coloring medium, and over the years, pretty much every year for Christmas, I ask for copics because they're just gorgeous. They make me feel like an artiste. So that brown combination I used for the brown leaf in the back and for this tie, I used E27, E25, and E99, which is the color I used in the orange flower. So if you want a cohesive color scheme, try to use multiple colors more than just once, and that will kind of tie everything together. So like I said, I just didn't like the white background, so I'm going to fussy cut this bouquet, leaving a white edge all around. I started to cut without the white edge on the handle of the bouquet, which I regretted because I don't like how that looks, so you're gonna see how I fix that later. But first I'm going to work on my background panel. I have cut a kraft panel to 4 by 5¼ inches, and now I'm going to blend a subtle background. I'm taking a stencil by Miss Ink. I don't think this one's available yet, but you can really use any stencil in your stash. I had like 3 options to choose from, and I just chose this one, but honestly, any stencil would be good because it's so subtle you can hardly see it, but it does add just a little bit of interest. And I am going for a tone-on-tone effect, so I'm using Frayed Burlap to blend on just a tad bit of brown ink. And I removed the stencil, and it was just a little too subtle. So luckily you can line up stencils pretty easily, so I'm going to do that now. And I have Scotch tape attached to the back of my craft panel, and that works pretty well to hold my stencil down. You can use pixie spray. I'm also trying to be extra careful with my blending because there are so many small areas and the stencil could easily lift. So I'm blending in one direction. I'm trying not to swirl it too much. So here I'm just cleaning up my stencil. This is very satisfying for me, guys. I love seeing things get cleaned instantly. Alright, so I'm going to lay my bouquet over the craft panel, and I really like how that looks, and I do like how the white border helps it stand out even more. But unfortunately, I lost the footage of me tying that twine bow. Like I said, I did not like that I didn't leave a white border on the handle of the flowers, so I just wrapped it around with some gold twine and tied a bow. I think that made it look more rustic, and I like how that turned out. I stamped my sentiment from the Fall Bouquet stamp set at the bottom of the panel, and I also embellished with some Trinity stamp sequins. So that is going to complete today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see some more sneak peeks of the new release, go ahead and head over to the Miss Ink Instagram. I will have it linked down below. I hope you guys have an incredible day, and I will see you next time. Bye!